At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce today's featured speakers. I'm just going to briefly read a brief bio of each one of them, and then we will get started. From the town of St. Joseph, Chair Teresa Johnson. She has served as town chair since October of 2018. She is a self-employed bookkeeper, manager, designer at the Hudson Flower Shop. In addition, she serves as president of the Western Wisconsin Intergovernment Collaborative of Pierce, Polk, and St. Croix counties, member of the Chancellor's Advisory Council at UWRF, and a member of the St. Croix Crossing Stakeholder Group. From the town of Hudson this morning, we welcome Chairman Don Jordan. He has served as Hudson Town Supervisor for 7 years and prior town chair for 2 years. Chairman Jordan has worked in business and corporate real estate for 40 years. He's a resident of the town of Hudson for 42 years and has also served on the county board supervisor for 6 years and the town board of adjustment chair for 12 years. From the city of Hudson, we welcome Mayor Rich O'Connor. He has served as mayor since 2016. Since 2010, a financial advisor and owner at AdvisorNet, and he moved to Hudson in 1999. He was a past member of the Minnesota House of Representatives, serving 6 terms from 1980 to 1992, and previously worked for Citigroup and M&I Wealth Management. From the town of Troy, we welcome Chair Dan Pearson. He has served 12 years as supervisor and 6 years as chair. He is a 4th generation of Pearson's to farm in Man Valley. He taught high school vocational agriculture before returning to farming. While farming, he got involved in farmland preservation in Troy, creating the Transfer of Development Rights Program. And finally, we welcome Village of North Hudson President Stan Wekkin. He was elected and served 2.5 terms as village trustee and elected to village president in 2013 and elected a 4th term in April. He was born and raised in Hudson and retired from 3M after 31 years of service. He also serves as a member of the Hudson Joint Fire Advisory Board, St. Croix EMS Commission, and the Hudson Area Senior Center Board. To moderate this program, please welcome Mark Garrity and all of today's speakers.
Thank you, Mary Claire. Thank you very much for inviting me, Mary Claire, and welcome to all of our representatives, from a president to chairman to it's amazing. So we would like to start out, we're going to do this alphabetically. This is not a candidates forum. This is no one against each other. I can't tell you how exciting this is. I mean, from the standpoint of the collaboration what is the Chamber of Commerce about, but bringing people together who are interested in expanding not only the economic development of the community, but making this a great community. And hopefully this will be the first, and I'm going to jump the gun here for a second. The first question that I have here says, is this a unique gathering, or do you meet on a regular basis and for collaborating opportunities that may exist? That should be the theme for today. And so at this point, we'll go alphabetically, and Teresa, I've known Teresa a long time, Chairman or Chairperson Johnson, if you'll come forward and make your statement.
Yes, Mark, we have known each other a long time. I'm Teresa Johnson from the town of St. Joseph. I was town chair for 8 years prior to being appointed back on the board in October after the chair left the position. So I had said when I left that I was done, but obviously you're never done when you say you're done. So here we are again. I've lived in the town for 23 years. I'm a resident of this area of Wisconsin, grew up between Prescott and River Falls on a farm, and lived in Hudson for quite a few years before we moved to Iowa and then came back. So I've been in the town for 23 years and watched the changes. I think the most important thing that has happened to the town of St. Joseph since its inception is that river crossing. There is nothing that has given us a greater impact here in western Wisconsin than that crossing. And it is amazing, first of all, what it looks like, what it does for us, and what it does for all of us going forward. When you talk about collaboration, that took 23 stakeholders to get done. And when the decision was made, it was still fought all the way through the courts into the United States Congress, and it took an act by Congress and a signature by a president to get it built. It needed to be built. All of us who live here understood that. But it is a gateway for us, but it's a gateway that opens up everything in western Wisconsin. And it does impact Polk and Pierce and St. Croix counties because of the impacts it takes away or adds to in the area. The town has worked very hard with this mitigation funding. We bought property with it, but we also updated our ordinances and our planning tools to anticipate growth in the town and also commercial and industrial growth. We've identified a business park that's going to take place between the current Highway 35 and the Interstate 64 and the old County Road E. It's kind of a triangular piece, about 55 acres. In addition, both the northeast and southeast corners of that interchange are identified as areas where that kind of growth will take place. It allows us to increase our tax base, but it also allows quick and easy access into the metro area. Our other things that we've identified that we need to do is that all of the towns in the state right now are struggling with infrastructure, especially roads. We have the highest number of roads in the state of Wisconsin, and we get the least amount of money. We are underfunded by 2/3 on maintenance for our roads. The legislature right now is meeting in the budget committee trying to rectify that. But in the meantime, because we are all under restraints as far as levy is concerned, the town of St. Joseph 19 years ago started taking out loans to pay for roads. So 19 years ago, we took out a $3 million loan, and with that 10-year loan, we rebuilt River Road. If any of you drive that way, that's one of our major roads we rebuilt. In 2009, when everybody thought we were crazy, we took out another $3 million and $500,000 for a fire hall and refinanced $1 million in debt. So we took out about a $5 million loan, and that pulled us forward to today. We are borrowing another $3 to $5 million this fall for another round of roads. We in the town feel strongly it's the only way you're going to stay ahead of that. And then you can use your funding to actually maintain them. But it's kind of a vicious cycle. When you don't get enough money from the state to maintain these roads, eventually they're going to fall apart, and it's major dollars to fix them. You don't fix them very easily. The second thing that we're doing right now is we're building a new maintenance building behind our town hall because we have lost our facility in Holton that was the county garage. So we need a place to put our tractor and all our other equipment, and that's where it's going to go. So if any of you have been out that way, it's taking place. Lots of things are happening. The town is changing. Our demographics we're an older population. They're starting to drop, so we're seeing those things take place. It's an exciting time, and I attribute a lot of it to that bridge. So it's a great, fantastic thing to happen to us. Thank you.
It's awkward walking back and forth. Don Jordan, Chairman of the Town of Hudson.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here. For my overview, I wanted to start at the helicopter level and then drill down to the issues that are confronting our town and our surrounding municipal communities as well. At the same time, giving you just a generalized background information so you can get a sense as to what's going on with our towns. Like many, we're seeing the pressure of an urban-rural interface. Our goal is to preserve our rural heritage while accommodating and encouraging planned growth. We now have nearly 8,700 residents in our town and over 100 miles of roads. In our town, we have a 2.5 acre average residential lot size, and we do that because it's served with well and septic. Now this equates to about 2,900 improved residential parcels on over 8,000 acres of land. The town also has about 2,300 acres of ag land and 1,700 acres of forest, open lands, and parks. And the lack of sewer and water infrastructure is a limiting factor for both residential density and commercial and industrial development of the order of magnitude that the city sees. In 2018, we issued 181 building permits, and that included 14 new homes. At any given time, there are numerous residential lots available for sale. Our assessor values each of the 2.5 acre lots that sit under their homes for consistency at about $100,000 per 2.5 acre lot. And obviously lot prices can go up dramatically from there. Our town of Hudson also has commercial, light industrial, and industrially zoned land. We have 73 commercial industrial parcels that have been improved on 480 acres of land. We've seen the expansions of Aero Building's rafter business and Norflex's blown plastic business, and both of these involve the use of rail-served needs. In the last year and a half, we've seen 4 or 5 different developers in our town that have developed rental storage units. And although that's not the highest and best use for our land, it is a permitted use under our ordinance. I guess it tells me that we, as a community, have a lot of things we need to store. In conclusion, our town is still a bedroom commuter town with a rural heritage, but we are changing. We have maturing developments. Many are 25 to 30 plus years old now. As Teresa mentioned, our roads and maintenance, therefore, will be a critical issue for future plannings of these towns. To replace 1 mile of road in our town costs approximately $800,000. And if we replaced 1 mile of road each year, it would take us 100 years to finish the project. To repave or resurface our roads costs between $125,000 and $150,000 per mile, and our quote 30-year road surfaces are now coming due. We remain competitively affordable when compared to the greater metropolitan service area, and we remain open for business with large lots, open spaces, and a skilled workforce. Thank you for inviting us today.
The Honorable Mayor Rich O'Connor.
Thanks, Mark. Good morning, everybody. Before the clock starts, anybody in here debate before? High school debate or anything? You got some, Mary Claire, hold those signs up, please. Anybody remember these? You got 1 minute, you got 15 seconds, and stop. Thank you.
You have an enforcer here.
I know. So anyway, thank you all very much for inviting us here this morning. It's always a pleasure to get in front of a group like this to talk to people about my favorite subject, which is, well, next to my kids and grandkids, which is the city of Hudson. So briefly, and we've got a lot going on here, and I know everybody knows that. So I'm going to give you a walk around the town real quick. We have 2 active tax increment finance districts going on. The first being, of course, the dog track. That was the first one that that we've had here since the industrial park. And as you can see, we have a lot of activity out there. That is going to generate $1 million when that entire project is online and fully taxable. That will generate $1 million for the city of Hudson alone. A $4 million impact for the entire community. Half of that, of course, going to the school district, about a quarter of it to the county, and about another quarter to the city of Hudson. That's an increase from $25,000. That's going to be amazing. It's going to be a great addition to our city, and we're all delighted for all the activity that's happening out there. The other TIF district that is going on right now is in downtown, and the entire downtown area is part of the tax increment finance district. If you have projects that you would like to see come to fruition over the course of the next few years, get in touch with Mike Johnson, our Community Development Director, and he can explain to you how you can take advantage of that tax increment finance district for any type of expansion, redevelopment, new business opportunity, that type of thing. Contact our Community Development Director. The beginnings of what we're seeing happening with the tax increment finance district for downtown include the River City Center, and I'm sure everybody is seeing the activity that's going on down there. It's going to be a great project that will open up to what used to be the front door for Hudson, which is to the river, and help with what I believe is a critical piece for increasing our exposure and identity as a river town. And that's what we are, and that's what I really love about this town. We are, in fact, a river town, and we need to take more advantage of that than what we have, I think. I guess to follow up on that a little bit, once some of this other activity has gotten well underway, we're going to turn our attention to Lakefront Park. And we're going to start doing things that are going to be more beneficial to the folks here in town, as well as bringing people in from the river. So we're hoping to get some activity on that you will be visible by the end of the year. Right now, we need the water to go down significantly before we can start on those projects. But we've got some great ideas down there, and it truly will enhance our identity as a river town. Parking is something that you're going to see happening here very soon. All of the parking meters will be going away at some point here in the not too distant future, in fact, in the very near future. And they will be replaced with new parking posts, stations, and kind of an updated parking system. There's going to be more turnover downtown, which should relieve some of the pressure that we see on parking downtown. You all know that we had a study that indicated that we were at about a 300 parking stall deficit. We actually had 300 parking stalls that were not metered before. So they will be metered, which will be doubling the number of stalls that we have metered. So we had people parking in those stalls for 8 hours, 10 hours a day. With the new meters, they'll be able to park 3 hours. That's it. The turnover there hopefully will create a mitigation of the parking problem that we have right now, and hopefully obviate a parking ramp need. And that would be great, because that is a huge cost. But we still have some developers out there that are looking at creating some parking opportunities with some ramps, along with developments that they have proposed for the downtown area. We're going to need about 6 months of data for parking. The biggest change that people will see is that you can use a credit card. It will be the parking hours will be from 10 a.m. until 9 p.m. And so there's going to be enforcement through dinner hour. That will be a big change, and that will also create some activity as far as turnover. Here comes the, your time is just about up. And one last thing I wanted to point out for the business people here, especially for the downtown area and up on the hill, we were successful in Japan just recently in bringing back the Pee Wee International Tournament to the city of Hudson. We hosted it in 2011. We're going to host it again in 2021. That had a minimum of $1 million impact back in 2011. Hard dollars being spent here in our city. We have people coming from all over the world. Different languages will be spoken throughout the city for a period of about 2 weeks, and it will truly benefit the folks here in the downtown area, and it's a great cultural event as well. Take advantage of that. That's in 2021. It's just in time for 2nd Street rip-up that we have, that we will be hosting this. It's in June, but we'll have buses coming downtown, so the business folks down here can rely on a steady flow of people coming in. About 600 people will be coming in from out of town for 2 weeks. So I'm not going to wait for the stop card to come up, but anyway, there's a lot more that we can talk about, and I appreciate the invitation. Everybody in here, I think, knows that I'm more than willing to go anywhere to talk about Hudson. I enjoy it. It's my favorite place. That's why we moved here. Thank you all very much.
Chairman Dan Pearson.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. First of all, I just have to thank Rich for pointing that out, because I knew I wouldn't go the full amount of time, but at least I know now why those cards are there. Actually, as an organic dairy farmer south of here, anytime I can get out of chores in the morning to come to a breakfast is so that's why I'm here. But as a farmer, I also found that I like doing things other than farming, and that's why I got involved with the township, and I'm on the board of directors for Organic Valley, which is a nationwide organic dairy company, and it's been just a thrill to get out of town a little bit and see the rest of the world, and then be able to bring it back and use it here. So just a few things about Troy. First of all, for those of you that may not know exactly where Troy is, the town of Troy, we're south of Hudson. We've got the beautiful St. Croix River on one side. We've got the city of Hudson on the north side. We've got City River Falls on the south side, so we're kind of nestled in between all that. And we're a playground for some. We've got 2 golf courses, several parks, We like to think of ourselves as a incubator for, we have a lot of small business coming out of homes that then grow large enough that have to come to the city or somewhere else as they grow. So we're really about just taking care of the residents that we have. We don't have a lot of businesses itself, commercial or industrial or that type of thing. We're more about just taking care of the roads like the other townships and taking care of our parks. And to that effect, right now we are in the process, just signed contracts yesterday to build a new building in one of our parks. If any of you have been involved in baseball, we have the Hudson River Falls baseball teams that share our two ball fields in our Glover Park, and we're putting up a new building there for year-round restrooms and a commercial kitchen and a shelter, storm shelter. So it's just one of the projects we have going on. We have our own road crew. We have a recycling center. We just take care of the town, the people, the residents that live there. We have a number of bike trails. I was noted as I came in that we've been striping the roads farther and farther out and taking a little less for the bike trails, so I have to look into that. I think half of my job is looking into things that people come up with. So, but that's good. That's good. I think that's kind of a little bit about what we're about, is take care of our own residents. So don't really have a lot more than that. We have a winery. The other thing, it came up something about transfer development right programs. One of the things in Troy that we decided a long time ago, and if there's anyone here who lives in Woodbury, which I talked to somebody earlier, our motto was we don't want to look like Woodbury. And so what we've tried to do is develop a system where we would allow some development, but condense it on smaller acreages, and then by doing that protect some of the farmland. So you can buy up development rights, make a tighter development, and in doing that you can, we have put conservation easements on a number of our farms. They will be farms forever. So, and I hope that's a benefit to the cities around us too, that you don't have to think that we're just going to become one big city. That even though I know there's great plans to expand and do all kinds of things, we're hoping it doesn't take over the whole township. So, at any rate, with that, I think I'll just stop.
I would like to introduce President Stan Wekkin.
Good morning, everyone. I need bigger notes because I get a little forgetful and stuff at this old age. But I'm Stan Wekkin, president of the Village of North Hudson, as Mary Claire introduced earlier. I'm in my fourth term. The Village of North Hudson is 1 mile square, or 1 square mile, and we have 17 miles of roads in the village. Population of 3,768, give or take a handful, depends on they move in or out. We have 9 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees at the village, and 1 intern with the police department over the summer. We've got, and one of the things that people always ask me is like, when are we going to get a grocery store in the village of North Hudson? And we've tried and not have been too successful, but one of the greatest things that we got going on right now is in the village, we have Quick Trip that's going to break ground on in the village on, should be just after the 4th of July. They're posting for jobs right now, and we'll have a Quick Trip in the village probably by the end of the year. Next thing that we've got going on, we have the Abbey. It's a development up near the Quick Trip area, which is where the bank and Mama Maria's are. Everybody's a bit familiar with where Mama Maria's is, I'm sure. And it's a Section 42 affordable housing project. Right now they're starting to rent. They have 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments that are for rent, and it's based on income. So hopefully, in part of the questions we had about affordable housing, it's not a lot of units, about 35, I believe, but it's a start, and that's what we have to do, is try to find more developers that'll put in projects like this. We've got right now a preliminary plat, not easy for me to say, for the Ridges. They're going to try to put 32 twin homes in. That's a development up off of Cratley, and there's still 25 single family sites available there. Another project in the village is Artisan North. It's definitely not a Section 42 type housing, but there's some very nice lots. It's down near the river, or down near the lake, so it's walking distance to the lake. So it'd be nice properties, and they're kind of selling that as retirement homes. So if you're looking for something like that, it'd be a great place to go. We have 13 parks in the village of North Hudson, which seems exorbitant to some, but it's a nice green space for a lot of people. And we've been working with the Department of Corrections. One of the sergeants there started a program where he's got a crew of inmates that come out and work on saves us a lot of money as far as, I know City of Hudson's used them for years, we use them. They come in and help brush and do the cleanup and stuff, because like I said, we've got 3-man crew for our public works, and so occasionally they need some help to catch up, especially with trees and stuff like that down. But the sergeant started a program where they plant monarch gardens. So we've got our first one we put in Woodcrest Park, and we're looking forward to develop more of that so we can help the pollinators and take care of the village. We have one commercial property available that's of any size. That's right on Highway 35, so if anybody's developing, I know they would really like to get something on that piece of property. And I'm just going to finish up with the one problem that we have in the village, and is Hudson and the county, is keeping a full police force. We've had a revolving door in the village for, I don't remember the last time. We had, I guess, a full staff for about a month and a half, I think, this last year. So that's kind of tough to do when you've got the hours in the day and only a 4-man crew. So, and now it's down to 3. So we're missing a sergeant. So if anybody knows anyone looking to be a sergeant in the North Hudson Police Department, have them call the chief, because we're having trouble getting people to come in. And with that, I would like to say thank you again for the invite. It was a great breakfast, really good egg bake, and have a great day.
So now we have the questions, and if you have any questions, these are the cards, fill them out, get them up front. So this goes to all. So I feel like Alex Trebek. So, all right, what conversation is happening regarding the development of housing that is affordable to workers making less than $20 an hour? So, Stan's already addressed part of that, and anybody else want to pick up on that? Speak up.
What?
She said let the mayor talk.
Wait a minute, is that how this works? We in the city of Hudson, we're pretty much we're bound by or limited by our city limits right now, and I think people know that we are currently annexing other properties for developments. And I'd heard Stan talk about Section 42 housing. We also have Section 42 housing that has gone in just north of the dog track. It's called the Maxwell, 35 units. Mostly, though, that's for seniors, and some of it's reserved for veterans. There's going to be another building, I believe, identical building that will go in there as well. It's scheduled to go in there for another 35 or so. And then you get into the question of how do we make housing affordable, or how do we make affordable housing here in the city? As I said, we're at our limits right now, and anything that we do, we have to annex for. And we just ran into a real serious problem at the Plan Commission meeting last week, where the developments are too big for the property, and perhaps and that's kind of an objective or subjective term, rather. Too big. Some people might think they're not too big, but the people in the surrounding areas seem to think that these developments have taken on an enormous size, but they almost have to be given the price of property here right now. So in order for the developers to make any money off the developments that they're proposing, they have to be sizable and they have to be at a certain rate, and most of what we're seeing proposed right now is market rate. So one of the things I guess I wanted to touch on in my initial remarks, but didn't have enough time to do, was I think what you might start hearing is a conversation about moratorium in the city of Hudson. And I think that's starting to gain legs, frankly, with our plan commission. We had 2 sizable projects that were put on hold, waiting for the outcome of public hearings that will happen Monday night. And I think that we're going to see that some of these projects are going to get scaled back, and we're going to have some serious discussions about what we want Hudson to look like. And we heard the comment, we don't want to be Woodbury. We've heard that a lot in the city of Hudson. And we have another limitation going east, and that's Carmichael. And Carmichael's going to be a very serious problem for us, because every single project, with the exception of the downtown TIF, every single project that we are talking about right now impacts Carmichael Road. The dog track right across the street, the Lee property was the next. You probably see some housing development happening there. The Carmichael Ridge, the old golf course, the housing development there. Any type of any proposals on the east side of Carmichael, land that is not currently part of the city of Hudson. And then you go forward, go north up to the Carmichael and Vine corner, and the Atwood property that was just recently annexed, and that was one of the development projects that we put on hold momentarily until we could get more input from our citizens. Every one of those projects impacts Carmichael Road. We need Carmichael Road fixed before we can do anything more over there. So that's a long answer and to address a question that frankly we really don't have an answer for right now.
I would just add to
Thank you.
affordable. I know. I thought I'd let you go first. Affordable housing is difficult in the towns because we have minimum lot sizes that are driven by the fact that we don't have water and sewer. So that makes affordability in housing difficult. I mean, lots in the town of St. Joe right now are going, the average lot's running $150,000 for 3 acres. You know, what are you going to put on that that's going to be affordable? It just doesn't work. And the constituents that I represent in the town have been through 2 rewrites of their town plan, and they're all adamant. They moved out there to have that rural look and feel, and they don't want to give it up. So it's difficult to make that change.
Well,
I would just support what Teresa said. You know, really, because of the way rural towns are structured, and without sewer and water, you know, getting the density to make these numbers work for developers is just about impossible in a rural setting. Being a neighbor of the city of Hudson, we do get nervous when they talk about annexation, but we're friendly neighbors.
so having the chair, I'm going to combine 2 questions. This is called chair discretion. So in the question, it's an overall question dealing for all of you regarding public transportation. Are there any plans to address the needs for public transportation within St. Croix County connecting the communities? And another question on that is one that would bring up both what happens in North Hudson, or excuse me, New Richmond and River Falls. Are there any discussions or plans for a ride taxi, shared taxi program within Hudson, North Hudson, et cetera? So whoever wishes to take that up.
We do not.
We do not either.
We know the county's looking at potential bus service from New Richmond to River Falls,
Yep.
but we do not have, we're not looking at that, and we do not have the facilities to support that.
Okay.
I would have to say the same thing for the village. I mean, like I said, we're pretty small. I mean, we're, you know, in the village you can walk from one end to the other without, it's only about a mile. So, yeah, we don't have, with levy limits and stuff, that's even close to being on the radar.
So are you familiar with the River Falls and Richmond shared taxi program?
I've heard about that just recently. Tom was telling me about it, and I think Rich is looking into something like that, and we would be open to you know investigating that, but depending on costs.
Okay.
I'll just say something, because Rich gave me a hard time about not saying something on the last one. We're concerned about all these issues, but they're not exactly the ones we've been tackling. But I think if there are issues that the community feels strongly about, then it's something that should just come to the forefront. But right at this point, we don't have anything going in either affordable housing or public transportation. So that's just what I can say.
Back to the Irishman.
All right, so as was pointed out, the city is looking at, I can't remember, I'm terrible with this, I keep losing the exact name of the program. No. Thank you.
Rideshare.
Right, no, is that the county program? So rideshare taxi then. Mike Johnson and I have had discussions with the county, Mike Johnson being our community development director, and we would like to bring that rideshare to the city of Hudson. It would be exclusive, however, for those people with disabilities as well as senior citizens, the elderly. And it's something that we think is critical and would be very beneficial, obviously, to the folks in our city. Stan pointed out levy limits, financial constraints, and of course, we all have those. We are not quite yet to the situation with levy limits that some of our neighbors are, but it won't take long before we get there. And so we've got to be very judicious in the programs that we initiate to make sure, number one, that we can continue with those and anything that we offer. But we think that right now that type of rideshare program works well down in River Falls. We would like to see it expanded to the city of Hudson.
Okay. Is there any plan, this is for all of you, any plan to redirect Highway 35 away from downtown Hudson and the village of North Hudson?
Is that a new bridge?
That's a question. So,
let me say this. One of the things that I would love to see happen is, because we just mentioned, or I was talking about Carmichael Road. It's a critical piece for transportation and access for everybody in the area, for everybody in St. Croix County, frankly. And it is one road that is not a state highway. The state Department of Transportation has indicated that they intend to do something with that interchange at 94 at some point in time, but they haven't given us a date. Everybody hears 2025, but that's not in stone by any means. We need something done over there before we can finish Carmichael Road. That will be the focus going forward. It will be the main focus for the rest of my term. I guarantee that. It's going to cost us, that interchange alone is a $30 million, that was 2 years ago, $30 million proposition. 15 million of that is our responsibility, our obligation. We have to pay half of that. Now, any other interchange along 94 is a state highway. The state is picking up the cost for every one of those, but not here. Our taxpayer is going to have to pick up half the cost of that. To reroute 35, perhaps, up to Carmichael to make it a state highway would be awesome, because then we would qualify for 100% funding for that interchange to be done. And that is something that we are talking currently with our elected officials about, is trying to somehow either make that a state highway or 100% county road.
okay.
But that's something on the table right now, and that we need to discuss. So
to keep on this moving, so we only have a couple left here. This is for Mayor O'Connor. More condos in the future for lakefront downtown area, question mark. Is there a height limit? And seems that like they could really affect the river views. So any talks about that specifically? We got various condos within shouting distance of this building.
right. The height limit, first of all, I think is 45 feet, 45 in this area, and there's a grade and a slope that it has to follow. The height has to follow. So are there any condo projects, additional condo projects? I think we're talking about the ones that are right over here right now that have already happened or are in the process of being built. I can't say for sure. We haven't seen any proposals for any condo projects. I would say if there is a property candidate for condos that are on First Street along the river, it would be the Gagnon property, just south of us here. Again, we want to see something that would open out to the river. Instead of back doors, backs of buildings facing the river, we want to see something that actually opens to the river. And I would like to see that type of project over there with perhaps some retail in there. But again, it has to do with the financial feasibility of a project like that, given the cost of property and the cost of construction. So, but short answer, nothing on the books. We haven't seen any projects. Long answer, yeah, I would expect to see that, especially in that property down there.
This is not intended, but it's a follow-up question, because of the way it's written. Again, from Aaron O'Connor. In the past, a study was conducted on enhancing riverfront area, marina, toll bridge, etc. What is the status of this study and any action items that we'll be seeing in the future?
One of my favorite subjects. I am absolutely in love with the St. Croix River. That's why we moved our family over here. I grew up pretty much on the river, even though I grew up in St. Paul, but spent all my summers on the St. Croix River, as did my wife. And we just love the river. We love the valley. Lakefront Park, next to the citizens in our community, is the #1 resource that this community has. And I think we need to enhance it for better opportunities, especially for our citizens. So what's going to happen? The very first thing that you're going to see, and we're talking to the DNR already about a number of projects down there, that Lakefront Park development is going to kick off with, if the City Council approves this, with a raising of our boat launch. Right now, the river, as you know, is above no wake. That should maybe be lifted today, actually. Last summer, the river was at no wake for about half the summer. Our boat launch was closed for about half the season. And that's not good. We need access for our citizens, and it's also a revenue generator. And that's not as important as access. So we're going to raise that ramp. We're going to bring it up probably about 2 feet. Our ramp closes when the river hits 680, 81 feet. No wake is at 683. So even when no wake is lifted, we still won't be able to launch boats until that water drops another 2, perhaps 3 feet. We need to raise that ramp. We need to extend the parking for that ramp up into the north of the current parking lot, kind of the way it used to be. Anybody that was been here for a long time knows that parking lot used to go for as far up that park as was necessary. But now we want parkland. We want it reserved, not for parking but for other use. But we feel that we can extend that parking lot farther north, raise the ramp, and then we're going to have a boat washing station down there for environmental purposes. Obviously, we're talking about a fish cleaning station down there for people that are out there fishing, as well as for tournaments. By the way, we're losing a lot of revenue in town by not being able to launch boats down there because of the tournaments that are either looking elsewhere or have been canceled because of the height of the river. So that's the first thing you'll see. I want a boardwalk along the wall. We can talk about that maybe some other time. I can see Mark's doing this now, not Mary Claire. And then the dike. The dike, we have to turn our attention to that. That is such a great resource. It's almost a half-mile long, maybe it's even longer than a half-mile. And there's a lot that we can do with that, and we will be turning our attention to that starting this summer. Not the dike necessarily yet, but the whole overall project for the park. And believe me, there's a lot more that I could talk about that I'd love to, but that's a whole different day.
So, as a follow-up final, and we started it out, is this a very unique gathering, or do you meet, or I'm editing now, will you meet like this in the future to see what collaborative opportunities may exist between the townships and the city and the village?
We have an intergovernmental group among all of us sitting here, including the county and the school district, and we meet on a regular basis. We share what's going on so everyone understands what's happening within our municipalities, and it's a good chance for us to talk about issues that we're all facing And I think it's a great group, and we've kept it going for many years. When I was chair before, we had started it, and it's been going on for, I would say a good 20 years.
Okay.
Everybody's nodding. That's
That's when we can bring up issues like what happens when this dog track goes in and all the people want to go through Troy to get back to River Falls. See? Just thought I'd bring that up.
That's when you become a next. That's when you become Hudson.
So you can see we do have good conversations.
As a wrap up, we have Mary Claire is going to do your. Come on up. Okay. You have your our parting gifts.
Yes.
And also to talk about M&M.
Yes, thank you.
You're up.
All right, a round of applause. Thank you for our featured speakers today. And thank you to Mark for moderating. And yes, we do hope to invite you back. We'd like to do this on an annual basis for the business community to be able to hear. We're not invited to your intergovernmental relations meetings, but as a business community, we'd be very interested to invite you back again and have this opportunity to hear what you're working on and how, part of it is to how can the business community work with you to help resolve some of the issues and challenges that you have too. So a special thank you to our sponsor of today's program, TELUS Property Services and Solutions, to all of our speakers, and to Mark Garrity for hosting, and the FIPS for hosting, and to San Pedro Catering. I look forward to seeing you at upcoming chamber events. The next Good Morning Hudson will be the new teacher luncheon on August 21st. Thank you for attending this morning, and thank you for your support of the Hudson Area Chamber of Commerce. Have a great day.